So what did you miss at Jubilee today? Well, you missed a large gathering of people who are hurting and wondering and struggling and celebrating, and just a whole bunch of us. There's been a number of deaths in the community in the last month, lives to be celebrated and losses to be mourned. And of course, there's been violence in our city, and it has affected us. So we began our service by just spending a little time sort of cradled in God. We shared a psalm, we sang a psalm, we prayed in silence, and just acknowledged our hurt and our aspirations for hope and our limitations, and therefore the need for something greater, the need for God. We did that. And then we listened to John 6, a story of the feeding of 5,000, and I think most of us know how that went. It went rather well, and people were excited and wanted to make Jesus king. We listened to that whole story and talked a little bit about how Jesus operates from an assumption of abundance and never scarcity. There is enough. There is enough. But 5 loaves, a couple of fish, thousands of people. But Jesus carries on as if there is enough, and the amazing thing is there is. But we turned that into a discussion also of dominant privilege, which is sometimes white privilege becomes part of that, but it's just that dominant privilege. Having been in the group that always decides how we're going to do things, wherever that is, what songs we're going to sing, what foods we're going to eat, what we're going to say when we do this and how we're going to do that, all of that, being in that culture. If we take this story of Jesus seriously and imagine, in fact, that we don't live in scarcity but in abundance, we recognize that there is room at the table for everybody. And I don't just mean at the table so they can have the same manners that we do and sit at the table and eat the same food we do, but actually come to the table with their own stories, their own lives, their own gifts, their own food, and we can share. Sometimes those of us in the dominant church and dominant culture, I suspect we become afraid of letting go or inviting others to the table, because maybe if we invite too many people to the table, there won't be room for us. Or if they come to the table, they'll change things and we won't know what to do, and then when we don't know what to do, we'll fall away from the table and we won't belong anymore. Because we've seen it happen to others. We don't want it to happen to us. But Jesus operates on a theory of abundance and makes it real. So the challenge for us is to recognize there is room at the table, and there is room in our hearts, and there is room for more stories and ways of being and doing, that together we create something that is more gifted, more abundant than we could ever have imagined when we only imagined doing it ourselves. That's what we did at Jubilee today. And we sang and we hoped to go out into the world and make a difference in our families, in our buildings, down the street, in our places of business, in our cities, in our provinces, in our country, in the world. We imagined that if we actually were open to one another, if we actually came from a place where our assumption is abundance, that we might actually discover and share abundant life. That's what we did at Jubilee today. And we missed you. That's the other thing we did. But hopefully we'll get to see you soon, and you will have done a little of that work. You will have imagined what it is to have a table where there is room for everybody, not just to sit, but to share. Yeah. We look forward to seeing you soon. Until we do, God bless.